Morning, welcome to Colin's Reading Aloud Project Part 80, another 1,000 words, starting now. Disquiet, disquieted, disquietedly, disquietedness, disquieten, disquietened, disquietening, disquietens, disquietful, disquieting, disquietingly, disquietive, disquietly, disquietness, disquietnesses, disquietus, disquiets, disquietude, disquietudes, disquisition, disquisitional, disquisitionary, disquisitions, disquisitive, disquisitory, disrank, disranked, disranking, disranks, disrate, disrated, disrates, disrating, disregard, disregarded, disregarder, disregarders, disregardful, disregardfully, disregarding, disregards, disrelated, disrelation, disrelations, disrelish, disrelished, disrelishes, disrelishing, disremember, disremembered, disremembering, disremembers, disrepair, disrepairs, disreputability, disreputable, disreputably, disreputation, disreputations, disrepute, disrepute, disrespect, disrespectable, disrespected, disrespectful, disrespectfully, disrespecting, disrespects, disrobe, disrobed, disrobement, disrobements, disrober, disrobers, disrobes, disrobing, disroot, disrooted, disrooting, disroots, disrupt, disrupted, disruptor, disruptors, disrupting, disruption, disruptions, disruptive, disruptively, disruptiveness, disruptor, disruptors, disrupts, dissatisfaction, dissatisfactory, dissatisfied, dissatisfiedly, dissatisfies, dissatisfy, dissatisfying, dissave, dissaved, dissaver, dissavers, dissaves, dissaving, dissavings, deceit, deceited, deceiting, deceits, dissect, dissected, dissectable, dissecting, dissectings, dissection, dissections, dissective, dissector, dissectors, dissects, dist, disaised, disaised, disazy, disazy, disazes, disazes, disazin, disazing, diseasins, diseasor, diseasors, disease, diseased, diseasy, diseases, diseases, diseasin, diseasing, diseasins, diseasor, diseasors, disselboom, disselbooms, dissemblance, dissemblances, dissemble, dissembled, dissembler, dissemblers, dissembles, dissemblies, dissembling, dissemblingly, dissemblings, dissembly, disseminate, disseminated, disseminates, disseminating, dissemination, disseminations, disseminative, disseminator, disseminators, disseminule, disseminules, dissension, dissensions, dissensus, dissensuses, dissent, dissented, dissenter, dissenterish, dissenterism, dissenterisms, dissenters, dissentients, dissentiences, dissentiencies, dissentiency, dissentient, dissentiently, dissentients, dissenting, dissentingly, dissension, dissensions, dissentious, dissents, dissepiment, dissepimental, dissepiments, dissert, dissertate, dissertated, dissertates, dissertating, dissertation, dissertational, dissertationist, dissertations, dissertative, dissertator, dissertators, disserted, disserting, disserts, disserve, disserved, disserves, disservice, disserviceable, disservices, disserving, disses, dissever, disseverance, disseverances, disseveration, disseverations, dissevered, dissevering, disseverment, disseverments, dissevers, dissheath, dissheathed, dissheaths, dissheathing, disshiver, disshivered, dishivering, dishivers, dissidents, dissidences, dissident, dissidently, dissidents, dissite, dissites, dissilience, dissiliences, dissilient, dissimilar, dissimilarities, dissimilarity, dissimilarly, dissimilars, dissimilate, dissimilated, dissimilates, dissimilating, dissimilation, dissimilations, dissimilative, dissimilatory, dissimilate, dissimiles, dissimilitude, dissimilitudes, dissimulate, dissimulated, dissimulates, dissimulating, dissimulation, dissimulations, dissimulative, dissimulator, dissimulators, dissing, dissipable, dissipate, dissipated, dissipatedly, dissipatedness, dissipator, dissipators, dissipates, dissipating, dissipation, dissipations, dissipative, dissipator, dissipators, dissociability, dissociable, dissociableness, dissociably, dissocial, dissocialize, dissocialized, dissocializes, dissocializing, dissocialities, dissociality, dissocialize, dissocialized, dissocializes, dissocializing, dissociate, dissociated, dissociate, dissociating, dissociation, dissociations, dissociative, dissolubilities, dissolubility, dissoluble, dissolubleness, dissolute, dissolutely, dissoluteness, dissolutenesses, dissolutes, dissolution, dissolutionism, dissolutionisms, dissolutionist, dissolutionists, dissolutions, dissolutive, dissolvability, dissolvable, dissolvableness, dissolve, dissolved, dissolvent, dissolvents, dissolver, dissolvers, dissolves, dissolving, dissolvings, dissonance, dissonances, dissonances, dissonancy, dissonant, dissonantly, dissuadable, dissuade, dissuaded, dissuader, dissuaders, dissuades, dissuading, dissuasion, dissuasions, dissuasive, dissuasively, dissuasiveness, dissuasives, dissuasories, dissuasory, disunder, disundered, disundering, disunders, disyllabic, dissyllabic, dissyllabified, dissyllabifies, dissyllabify, dissyllabifying, dissyllabism, dissyllabisms, dissyllable, dissyllables, dissymmetric, dissymmetrical, dissymmetries, dissymmetry, distaff, distaffs, disdain, disdained, disdaining, disdains, distal, distally, distance, distanced, distanceless, distances, distancing, distant, distantly, distantness, distantnesses, distaste, distasted, distasteful, distastefully, distastefulness, distastes, distasting, distaves, distalthink, distalthinks, distemper, distemperate, distemperature, distemperatures, distempered, distempering, distempers, distend, distended, distender, distenders, distending, distends, distensibility, distensible, distensile, distension, distensions, distensive, distent, distension, distensions, distents, disthene, disthenes, disthrone, distroned, disthrones, disthroning, disthronize, distronized, distronizes, distronizing, disthronize, distronized, distronizes, distronizing, distick, distickle, disticus, disticusly, distix, distill, distill, distillable, distilland, distillands, distillate, distillates, distillation, distillations, distillatory, distilled, distiller, distilleries, distillers, distillery, distilling, distillings, distills, distillment, distillments, distills, distinct, distinctor, distinctest, distinction, distinctions, distinctive, distinctively, distinctiveness, distinctives, distinctly, distinctness, distinctnesses, distincture, distinctures, disting, distingue, distang, distingue, distinguish, distinguishable, distinguishably, distinguished, distinguisher, distinguishers, distinguishes, distinguishing, distinguishment, distome, distomes, distort, distorted, distortedly, distortedness, distortednesses, distorter, distorters, distorting, distortion, distortional, distortions, distortive, distorts, distract, distractible, distracted, distractedly, distractedness, distractor, distractors, distractibility, distractible, distracting, distractingly, distraction, distractions, distractive, distractively, distractor, distractors, distracts, distrail, distrails, distrain, distrainable, distrained, distrainee, distrainee, distrainer, distrainers, distraining, distrainment, distrainments, distrainor, distrainors, distrains, distraint, distraints, distrait, distrait, distraught, distraughtly, distress, distressed, distressor, distressors, distresses, distressful, distressfully, distressfulness, distressing, distressingly, distressings, distribuend, distribuends, distributable, distributaries, distributory, distribute, distributed, distributee, distributees, distributor, distributors, distributes, distributing, distribution, distributional, distributions, distributive, distributively, distributives, distributivity, distributor, distributors, distributorship, district, districted, districting, districts, distringers, distringerses, districts, districtses, Distrouble, distroubled, distroubles, distroubling, distrust, distrusted, distruster, distrusters, distrustful, distrustfully, distrustfulness, distrusting, distrustless, distrusts, distune, distuned, distunes, distuning, disturb, disturbance, disturbances, disturbant, disturbance, disturbative, disturbed, disturber, disturbers, disturbing, disturbingly, disturbed, distyle, distyles, disubstituted, disulfate, disulfates, disulfid, disulfide, disulfides, disulfids, disulfiram, disulfirams, disulfoton, disulfotons, disulfate, disulfates, disulfide, disulfides, disulphoret, disulphorettes, disulphuric, disunion, disunionist, disunionists, disunions, disunite, disunited, disuniter, disuniters, disunites, disunities, disuniting, disuniting, disunity, disusage, disusages, disuse, disused, disuses, disusing, disutilities, disutility, disvalue, disvalued, disvalues, disvaluing, disvouch, disvouched, disvouches, disvouching, disworship, disworshipped, disworshipping, disworshipped, disworshipping, disworships, disyllabic, disyllabified, disyllabifies, dissyllabify, dissyllabifying, disyllabism, dissyllabisms, dissyllable, dissyllables, disyoke, disyoked, disyokes, disyoking, dit, diter, dital, ditals, diters, ditch, ditch digger, ditch diggers, ditched, ditcher, ditchers, ditches, ditching, ditchless, ditchwater, ditchwaters, dite, dited, dites, dithecal, dithecus, ditheism, ditheisms, ditheist, ditheistic, ditheistical, ditheists, dithelete, ditheletes, diatheletic, ditheletical, diatheletism, diatheletisms, dithelism, dithelisms, diatheletism, diatheletisms, dither, dithered, ditherer, ditherers, ditheria, ditheriest, dithering, dithers, dithery, ditheocarbamate, dithiol, dithiols, dithionate, dithionates, dithionic, dithionite, dithionites, dithianus, dithyrambic, dithyrambically, dithyrambist, dithyrambist, dithyrams, diting, ditocus, ditone, ditones, ditransitive, ditransitives, ditriglyph, ditriglyphic, ditriglyphs, ditrochian, ditroche, ditroches, dits, ditsia, ditsiest, ditsinus, ditsinuses, ditsi, dit, ditander, ditanders, ditanies, ditany, dite, dites, ditted, dittied, ditties, ditting, dittit, ditto, dittoed, dittographic, dittographies, dittography, dittoing, dittologies, dittology, dittos, dits, ditty, dittying, dits, ditses, ditsier, ditsiest, ditsinus, ditsinuses, ditsy, diureses, diuresis, diuretic, diuretically, diureticalness, diuretics, diurnal, diurnalist, diurnalists, diurnally, diurnals, diuron, diurons, diuternal, diuternities, diuternity, div, diva, divagate, divagated, divagates, divagating, divagation, divagations, divalence, divalences, divalencies, divalency, divalent, divalence, divan, divans, divaricates, divaricated, divaricately, divaricates, divaricating, divaricatingly, divarication, divarications, divaricator, divaricators, divas, dive, dive bomb, dive bombed, dive bombing, dive bombs, dived, divelent, divelicate, divelicated, divelicates, divelicating, diver, diverge, diverged, divergement, divergements, divergence, divergences, divergencies, divergency, divergent, divergently, diverges, diverging, divergingly, divers, diverse, diversed, diversely, diverseness, diversenesses, diverses, diversifiable, diversification, diversified, diversifier, diversifiers, diversifies, diversiform, diversify, diversifying, diversing, diversion, diversional, diversionary, diversionist, diversionists, diversions, diversities, diversity, diversely, divert, diverted, diverter, diverters, divertibilities, divertibility, divertible, diverticular, diverticular, diverticulate, diverticulated, diverticulitis, diverticuloses, diverticulosis, diverticulum, divertimenti, divertimento, divertimentos, diverting, divertingly, diverter, divertisement, divertissements, divertissement, divertissements, divertive, diverts, dives, divest, divested, divestible, divesting, divestiture, divestitures, divestment, divestments, divests, divesture, divestures, divvy, dividable, dividant, divide, divided, dividedly, dividedness, dividednesses, dividend, dividendless, dividends, divider, dividers, divides, dividing, dividings, divvy, divvies, dividual, dividuous, divid, divinable, divination, divinations, divinator, divinatorial, divinators, divinatory, divine, divined, divinely, divineness, divinesses, diviner, divineress, divineresses, diviners, divines, divinest, diving, divings, divinified, divinifies, divinify, divinifying, divining, divinization, divinizations, divinize, divinized, divinizes, divinizing, divinities, divinity, divinization, divinizations, divinize, divinized, divinizes, divinizing, divies, divisibilities, divisibility, divisible, divisibleness, divisiblenesses, divisibly, divis-him, division, divisional, divisionally, divisionary. And that's 1,000 for today. So I'll stop there and I'll see you tomorrow.